You ready? All right. Welcome, everybody. It is February 15th, 2024. It is 7:32 p.m. Clemens, could I ask you to do a roll call?
Yeah, Director Baker here, Director Young,
Here.
Director Boyd,
You.
Director Slater Carter,
Present.
Director Sofke.
Present and accounted for.
Thank you. So welcome to this meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board of Directors. Tonight, for my president's statement, I just want to commend the community. I saw a number of examples of people pulling together during the recent storms. And if we got to go through it, this is a good community to do it in because there's people who really take care of each other. I want to mention here on the coast side, we have a group called CERT, C-E-R-T.
Yes.
And they do a lot to help people be prepared and ready. Thanks to their efforts. I now know about these radios, and I know that during a power outage or some other emergency, I can get on channel 22 now.
Oh, that's awesome.
In Montara and Moss Beach, I believe it's 22. And the radios are not terribly expensive. You can get a pair of them for under $100. And you don't have to be, when we're out of power and out of cell phone and out of Wi-Fi, we can still talk to some people who know a little bit about what's going on. And if we need emergency help, there are people who can help with that. Hang on a second. And then I just want to commend one person in particular. One of our neighbors here in Montara had the ability to offer Wi-Fi for free if you walked down to his apartment. But he went beyond just setting up Wi-Fi. He set up chairs. He set up a power strip so you could charge your devices. And he was playing jazz in his garage.
Oh,
And
cool.
I went for a while, and it was delightful. And just a really nice example of people helping people, and part of what makes living in Montara Moss Beach so wonderful. Clemens, you and I were talking. Did you want to say something?
Yes, we're talking about the emergency personnel that is running around in the winter time and with these storms. And we're very fortunate that we don't have any big events really happening, any sewer spills. It's of course the biggest concern. And the guys are mainly running around and refueling generators, which is a lot of work once the power is out.
The district generators,
The district
not
generators.
private ones.
The district generators, yes, because, they're taking diesel and you basically just go back and forth between gas stations and refueling these generators. So, in short, what happens during these times when it rains quite a bit is that we see the ground starting to move a little bit. Because, water soaks in and all these clay minerals start just moving a tiny bit. So we actually do see water leaks come up during these times of rain a little more often. And that's the case right now. And they are very difficult and tricky to investigate because it's wet everywhere. So I'm actually pleased that, so we have one problem is on 8th and Main Street. That's a very busy intersection. So there's going to be the heads up. This is an emergency. We have to go in there as soon as possible. So at the beginning of next week, there will be work done with traffic control, most likely. So you'll see an impact to the community because that is a very busy that's I would say probably the busiest intersection in the district. So we'll have to do some work there. And I'm pleased actually that our neighbors to the South Coastside County Water District is helping us out tomorrow. They have leak detection equipment that we don't own. So their staff is actually driving up and helping us to figure out a couple of situations in the district. And one of them is actually the 8th Street situation. So hopefully we'll learn more tomorrow and can dive in as soon as possible, and we hope it doesn't have to be on the weekend. We hope this can be done on Monday or Tuesday.
So thank you, Catherine, you wanted to chime in?
Where can you get those radios?
I ordered mine on Amazon and got them 2 days later.
And it's called what?
Oh,
FRS.
there's FRS and another one. One is a little stronger than the other, and then there's a third option, which is to get your ham license.
Oh,
And
okay.
CERT can help you get your ham license.
Yes.
It's really not that hard. And now that I've kind of finally taken the first step, I'm like, oh, this is really interesting, and I want to learn more. So one thing I want to learn how to do is when I'm over the hill, like at work or something, if something happens, like we have a big earthquake, I want to be able to use radios like this to reach my family
Yep.
when cell phones don't work. So in a big quake or something, that can certainly happen. But I'm pretty confident that the radio operators who are volunteering will keep that working.
Not sure it's that long range. Where do you work?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not. Hang on. It's not. And but there are relay facilities, and the people involved can help relay messages through.
Yes.
And so there are ways to get it done, but it takes some learning.
We have
but-
very active, or did, for a very long time, the shortwave, the
The ham operator.
cam operator. I've known people in the Pacific, and it's actually quite an active community because you can communicate with people all over the world.
Yeah, and so it's even with radios that can't reach very far, you can bounce through relay stations and get to where you need to. And it's not the kind of thing that you want to use all the time. I mean, I want to use my cell phone's data plan most of the time, but that one time when I need to see if everybody's okay and if there's something I need to do and to let them know I'm okay, working with the CERT people, I'm going to get the training to learn how to do that.
Well, and people should keep an eye out on Nextdoor and other places because CERT has a very active training program.
Yep.
And they're always inviting new people because their philosophy has been, they have large animal training, small animal training, various other forms of training to get your CERT certificate. And it's a very active and special community that is pretty much Montara, Moss Beach, and I think El Granada.
Well, it's up and down the coast side and even into Pacifica pretty well. It's a pretty vital community, and they do a lot of work behind the scenes to help make connections where, you know, when the phones aren't working, and more, we're not going to be able to rely on our phones. So being able to hop on the radio, and I mean, even if you don't want to learn how to do it, find out which of your neighbors have it, because it's a little bit like I was walking down toward the post office, and I walked a loop 7th Street down to Main and then back up around 8th and across. I counted a dozen generators running.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of neighbors who have gone that extra step to be prepared. And the spirit of so many people here is if you need it during a crisis, a lot of people are willing to share and help out. And so it's nice to know the level of preparation and the willingness to share is pretty high. Bill?
Well, speaking of which, I've signed up to take the CERT official training for 4 sessions from, Feb 28th through March something or other. So I will be nominally more capable of keeping people alive or doing some useful emergency thing thanks to that. I got a chance to see Leo's thing. We used it because it turns out that the places which monitor batteries and solar panels and stuff assume the internet just always works. The idea that internet and mobile and power can all go out at once is not literally anywhere in the source code of major electrical administrations. That's a problem for emergency planning. But ultimately, I'm glad that I was able to go to Leo's thing and get power and get internet, but also the walkie-talkies have a wonderful way of you announce your first name and where you live. So now everybody knows who you are, and they give updates. Is Devil Slide open or not? Is this open or not? When does PG&E say power will come back? When does Xfinity say internet will come back? So having an utterly good failover communications, mobile's out, internet's out, and yet we can learn about what's going on. That is a wonderful thing. I'm super happy that CERT's doing it, and I want more of that.
So one more comment, and then my president's statement will be over, and we'll move on to the really good.
Okay, well, back on CERT for just a minute. The spring class is full, but they're taking reservations for the fall class already because the March class is already full. And I've been on CERT for many years, and it's more than just having a walkie-talkie. You actually could go door to door. And the other thing is that when Ray Mueller went down to the Coastal Commission, they got approved for the community broadband that we almost didn't get. So that's good news too.
Yeah.
Who knows when it'll happen? They're hoping this year.
Well, the Coastal Commission approved the project for the installation of fiber from
That's
the
what-
tunnel
that's what I meant.
down to Half Moon Bay, and I've started reading through the Coastal Commission report. It looks like a pretty decent project. There's gonna be some question about how people are gonna get access to using it, but having the fiber there is a necessary first step. So that's really good. That passed. The Coastal Commission was supportive of that. And when people want to complain about the Coastal Commission, there are things that we should pay attention to that are good, that they're helping facilitate. And when they do good, we should say so. That might help them do more good. All right, let's go to the next thing on the agenda, new business, item 1. A review and possible action concerning authorization to purchase replacement emergency standby generators.
Yeah, thank you. We have a smaller trail, we have a trailer mounted unit at the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side that unfortunately failed. Pippin is helping us to size it properly and replace the unit. We also have a need, it's kind of like a cross-agency need for 2 more generators. So I'm just gonna let Pippin present maybe the item. But I'm glad, Pippin, you're here and doing what you're doing and getting the quotes and doing the legwork so we can get our generators replaced that need replacing. Pippin.
Thank you. So one thing that I'll just say up front, which is good for everyone. We're talking about generators and the power outage. A lot of these generators do make stinky smelling exhaust, but these larger generators that the district is looking at purchasing are at the highest. They call it tier 4. It's the highest clean exhaust, low particulate level that the technology currently allows. So for people concerned about that, we're compelled by the state to purchase the highest quality units available, and so that does mean that the prices have gone up a little bit on the units, a few $1,000s per unit for the better exhaust systems. But anyway, as Clemens pointed out, we have need for a middle-sized portable generator that's like around a 50 kW that we can use for example, Date Hart pump station. We can tow around if we need it at various locations. Sam uses these little generators, and it's a fair bit of work for them to kind of hopscotch because not every sewer pump station has a dedicated generator. So some of the pump stations like 5th Street and 7th Street can go several hours without power, but then Sam has to come and move the generator from place to place. In addition, we have the redundancy. Occasionally we have issues, like we do have a generator at Airport Station, but it's having some trouble. It needs a tune-up right now. Maybe the moisture got in the fuel, or it needs some cleaning, so it's getting service. So to have a backup to supplement in is always helpful to keep everything going. Additionally, Clemens mentioned the cross-agency need. So in addition to having redundancy generators for some of the larger stations like First Street, Canoff Station, and Airport, as I mentioned, the schoolhouse tank has a 30 horsepower pump that's extremely critical to move water from one district, one pressure zone to another. So having the redundancy to make sure that that is always ready to go, that's a really important thing for power outages as well as fire protection. So ultimately, we're looking to purchase 3 generators. The first one we already have selected and priced. That quote is in the packet from Pack Machine Company. They were the lowest price, and that includes what's called a smart load bank, which is part of the maintenance equipment used to keep the exhaust system clean and functioning well, and that's $71,000. And so in total, we're asking for a not to exceed of $250,000, so we can further research and price the additional 2 generators that we need for these various mobile applications. And if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to take those.
All right, do we have any comments or questions from anyone? Sid?
I was just gonna ask you, Pippin, you said it's gonna be sorry, I can't think of the word right now.
Cross-agency.
No, SAM and MWSD will co-own some of these generators. Is that what you said?
Well, so no. So all the generators will be owned by MWSD.
I see.
SAM kind of keeps one in their possession, so they're ready to go for emergencies. They don't have to go fetch it. So
Okay,
they can go straight to the problem if it's a sewer problem. And then another one we might will likely keep at the Dade Hart Pump Station the majority of the time. And the third one would be most likely under Julian's care on the water side for the majority of the time. But again, it would be available, by truck if we need to tow it around.
so other entities that are part of the JPA will have to fund their own generators if they need one. It's not like Sam's gonna loan it out to them.
That's correct.
Okay,
Obviously, if there was a desperate need or phone call from either of the other, Montara they have an agreement to help for emergency response, but in general, for regular emergency maintenance, each agency funds their own generators.
I did see Sam out in Seal Cove maintaining all the pump stations during the 4 days we were without power, because those grinder pumps are, subject to backflows, I guess. So they were out there. I guess they did have a leak at the distillery or one of the houses near the distillery. They had to pump it out manually. Anyway, thank you.
they do have to pump each one of those little tanks either manually or use a little generator, to temporarily turn them on and pump it to the larger station, and then from the larger station fill it into a truck. They can, if we have enough generators, we can leapfrog it all the way so it goes into the collection system and around to ultimately back to Valimar Street. But it kind of depends on where the resources are, what they can do at that moment. Sometimes they use the truck, sometimes they use a generator.
So the generator that I remember seeing out here in front of our building, that was not ours. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's part of the communication system, and that's belongs to that lease.
Thanks.
All right, Catherine?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I strongly support this, without question, because we can't run a complex system like we've got now, without our generators. We have 13 pump stations in this district.
Well, major pump station.
Major.
And then I think, 21 smaller.
Exactly. And so when the power goes out, the likelihood of spill is a serious issue. And I think getting the newer, quieter ones, I remember some years ago where we were we were always praying that the generators would start. And I think spending our resources on something that keeps our district safe and usable and taking care of our environment is one of the most is one of our major functions, and generators are certainly part of it. We've been lucky this year; we didn't have the power outages of the last 2 years.
I strongly support that motion and make that 250,000 budget available. But I do want to say that I was really annoyed to see that on Sixth and Artie, we use the rented generator set for way too long. It seems like almost 1.5 years. And at $4,000 a month, that was a lot of money.
Wow.
So I don't really understand why we waited this long to come up with the generator.
Is that the corroded one?
purchase.
Hey,
Sorry.
hang on.
So it's the availability. So, and Pippin can talk to this, I mean, we have one here right now that's available and spec. The availability has gotten a lot better, right? But that was really the problem. Having, you know, that's a specific unit with a trailer mounted pump, etc., that was out there for a very long time. And the price was negotiated down, so we saw the billings at the beginning, but actually the price got down. I do want to say we also rent a generator right now for, so the generator that you see on Seal Cove, that is a rented generator that we had to, you know, get because this other one failed catastrophically.
So the one on Hart is not the corroded one, it's a different one that we
The
had?
one that you saw on Seal Cove.
Yeah, that one.
That was a rented generator.
But you said we were replacing one that got all corroded, I thought you said. or
Yeah,
no?
we own a generator that is towed around for this purpose, as Pippin explained.
Yeah.
And that one failed. So we're replacing that one and another one.
Let's go to Bill.
This all makes a ton of sense because generators have been in existence for more years than I can remember. And diesel generators tend to be reliable, so when they fail away. So this sounds like just part of the business of having generators and keeping power available when the grid is down. I'm assuming that also means that we have a few decades of experience of how much money we spend on generators, you know, 5 years to 5 years, and how fast they fail. And that these expenses are broadly in line with the institutional experience as a whole, except for the fact that California requires us to get fancier and fancier things with more technology. So I know there's going to be an extra uptick because of new regulations, but can I assume that this is kind of a part of doing business, as it always has been?
It is, and I'm glad you're talking about the regulations, because Pippin already talked about the CARS regulation, California Air Resources Control Board regulations that are getting stringent and stringent. And essentially the requirements are increasing the prices, as Pippin really explained. But what's also happening is we see on the other end, on the reporting end, there is so much more rules and regulations that have popped up in recent years. Our staff is very busy showing the generators to county inspectors. We have to pay all of these people that come out and ask for fees. CARB is very involved and wants to know what we're doing. There's a lot of reporting, paperwork, and site visits involved from people that want to make sure that everything is fine and safe. And that has really, these kind of regulations are eating up our staff's time.
So in some regard, the better we help PG&E maintain tree clearance around power lines, the less we might spend on generators.
I'm not quite sure if that is really the true,
Well-
because I'm gonna say that regardless of how well the power system is out here.
Yeah.
We do need emergency standby generators for, the main things that we need to run, which are, the wells.
Right.
Use the water and the pump stations.
So it's not a question, it's not a question of whether or not we have them. It would be a question of how many hours we needed to run them.
Yes,
And fewer hours,
yes.
less fuel, easier maintenance, less reporting.
There are these craziness, like, they allow us only to run the generator for maintenance a certain amount of hours a year. which is way less than the generator needs to run for maintenance every year, for example, and these kind of things that we're running into.
Catherine?
I just wanted to add that, some of our decision makers up county and above don't seem to realize the cost and the burden they're putting on the residents in their passion to make everything so much better. And this district doesn't run on money from anywhere else but our ratepayers. And we're constantly trying to figure out how to keep our rates down without and maintain the quality and the environmental regulations that we are required to. So when you see your costs going up as you have in the past and will in the future, it's not bad management here, but you might want to talk to some of your legislators about how that the state maybe should be paying for the financial burden it puts on the districts.
To that end, in principle, we could sit and write a very convenient list of ways in which stupid state regulations are unnecessarily burdening us. That way we don't put it on our ratepayers to do the research on their own.
That's it.
Well, you brought up the trees, and this is something to possibly put on a future agenda. But I noticed that one of the worst, Montara obviously was out longer than 4 days. And I think part of it was at Fir and Hart. There were so many trees down. I'm almost positive that's part of the Caltrans right of way that's unmaintained. So maybe this is a good time to talk to whoever it is to try to get whatever we're trying to get out of Caltrans, either more maintenance or give up some of it or whatever. It's near Hart, I think, so.
I was not aware. So Fir on Hart Street is indeed Calvin's right away. You're
Yeah.
saying there was big trees that came down?
I'll send you a photo. I took a screenshot of next
The
door.
tree was down across the lines. It was, I like walked, they were a couple
Yeah.
feet off my head.
No, that
There
was,
were other trees down too.
that happened, that happened on 6th Street. It happened at a number of places.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a big storm. It's not surprising that things came down. And even with people were complaining about PG&E. I saw and talked to PG&E people and contractors they hired doing tree trimming a few months ago. And, they were doing things to clear branches away from the lines, but some of the trees that I saw, if those trees fell, they're still gonna fall on the lines because they're taller than the lines. They can't do everything, right? So we're gonna have to deal with some of what happens until maybe some of the lines can be undergrounded. But certainly I went through some of the undeveloped right away, and I stopped taking pictures because there were so many trees down. I think I saw a dozen large trees down, and it's some degree that's just that's guess where we live. So but there are things that we can do and if we can encourage them with eyes on the ground and letters and phone calls, for certain hotspot areas, like this district, especially with Clemens and with some of the neighbors in the area, got Caltrans to do some work that may have had some benefit, certainly fire risk benefit for sure, and power outage benefit. We just keep pushing. This is one of those rocks we have to push up the hill, right? All right. What we're looking for here is a motion to authorize the general manager to issue purchase.
I made, he seconded.
You made the motion?
Yeah,
Okay, I was talking.
we were all talking.
All right. Let's see, this is an authorization. So all in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Let's go to item 2, review and possible action concerning nomination of representative to the CSDA Board of Directors.
Yeah. Thank you. So we have the California Special Districts Association, CSDA, that is letting us know every other year that a seat is open, essentially to represent the Bay Area. And that is, yeah, and they call it now even Bay Network. Before it was Region 3. Okay. Catherine Slater Carter expressed interest to serve on the CSDA Board of Directors and is intimately familiar with the proceedings and has attended the local chapter meetings for decades. So our recommendation is to adopt a resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District authorizing the nomination of Catherine Slater Carter as Bay Area Network representative to the CSDA Board of Directors.
Thank you. I would be honored to serve. We are just getting the San Mateo County CSDA up and running as well. And I think it's very important to keep the two closely united. CSDA is working very hard right now on making itself a nationwide special district organization, because special districts are not even defined in the federal government, so we're not eligible for any federal aid. And so I look forward to working on it.
So looking for a motion to adopt the resolution next in order, a resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District authorizing the nomination of Catherine Slater Carter as Bay Area Network representative to the CSDA Board of Directors.
I move.
Thank you.
Bill and Peter.
It says here that you have to go attend meetings, board meetings 4 to 5 times a year in Sacramento, plus participate in at least one committee 3 to 5 times a year in Sacramento. And being that you're already on SAM and the Harbor District, I'm just wondering if you feel like you're not spreading yourself too thin. Just asking. You may not even get it since it's for the whole district.
I think I'll be fine.
Okay.
All right. So it's a resolution. Let's do a roll call vote, please. Director Decker.
Aye.
Director Young.
Aye.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
Yes.
And Director Slavky and Director Boyd votes aye. So the resolution passes 5-0. Thank you for volunteering to serve. Getting representation from small districts is really, as we've learned over the years, really important. Otherwise, the small districts wouldn't have much of a voice at all. So
That's true.
we've learned that even small districts can get big things done. So thank you. Let's go to reports. Sewer Authority Mid-Coast-Side. Peter and I attended Monday, and I've got some notes, but Peter, did you have anything you wanted to start with?
Yeah, I just want to review the agenda items. We had a recognition for workers' comp excellence. In other words, none of the workers in SAM got hurt. Year, there was a 120-page report that needed to be submitted in order to qualify for this excellence award. The good news is that it is every 2 years that somebody gets that excellence reward, and the other good news is that the award gives each employee $275 to spend as they wish. So that was very interesting.
And I'll mention too that of all the districts in California, 4 got this. And so Sewer Authority Mid-Coast-Side has been very excellent. They've received this many times. They didn't receive it in a recent prior year because you cannot apply every year. So they've got just a great track record, and more importantly than the money and the recognition is the safety of the people who work there, and it doesn't happen by accident. They work very hard to think about the work that they do and prepare to make sure that when they engage in different kinds of work, they've got safe practices for doing so. And I know we do the same thing here, and this is really a super important part. And for anyone concerned about rates, taking care of our employees and helping them take care of themselves is one of the surest ways to avoid completely unnecessary and unfortunate expense, because safety, people are healthy, and we don't have those big expenses. So it's one of those moments where, hey, we've got good news as an agency to report. Nothing happened, and that's just some of the best kind of good news for the public agency. Catherine?
Just let me add that keeping your workers' comp at the high level of excellence that we have is a huge budget savings. And so it's giving the workers that kind of reward is a thank you for their team spirit and care for the organization as well.
All right, thank you.
The next agenda item was to receive and file a report on the Tupro Consulting on hydrodynamic flood modeling studies. And that was very interesting to see what in very bad weather will happen to the sewage plant, the treatment plant. And the end result of that study was basically that we need to increase the size of our dam that we have already in place, our 3-feet dam. And that we need to yet look for another study to indicate to us how that dam should be built, rather than the 3-foot high cement enclosure that is in place now.
So the berm that surrounds the plant is not at the same height all the way around. They raised it somewhat during the last big event, but Integral Consulting is recommending that we raise it to overall a 27-foot height around, which would be incremental over what's already there. It's not, we don't have to build 27 feet.
We are at 21 feet.
Right, but we do need to add more, and because of the way earthen dams work is as you go up, it has to get wider at the base. So this would be a pretty significant thing, but it also means they can't go up forever because we don't have enough space on the property to have the footing of it spread too wide. But the good news is that they use some pretty sophisticated models. They did 2 different models. They calibrated very carefully against historical data and against the topography, and USGS has a whole bunch of really great data. So they built a couple of really good models. They played, or they ran different simulated scenarios, and they kind of set a point of, like, for a storm that's likely to happen once every 100 years, we need to be at least this high. And for a storm that might happen once every 500 years, we need to be at least that high. And so with a pretty reasonable additional approach, we can get high enough for a 100-year storm, pretty much no problem. But then they had a secondary recommendation, which was we need to get in, well, we need to do a geotechnical study to make sure that this thing's going to be, stay up when the waves are coming up against it, when the floodwaters are there, because, we've, do you remember what was the dam up north that failed, and you just saw the water start to trickle over, and the next thing you know, you didn't have a dam?
Stone Pine Dam?
No. Up north.
In Auburn?
I don't, yeah.
Oroville.
Oroville.
Yeah.
So it starts small, and you just can't give any ground, because if you give any ground, you're going to give all the ground. So that was really interesting. And then they're saying, and we also need to take a really careful look at some of the most critical infrastructure inside the berm and look at relocating or elevating things like the power distribution house, the generator, things that we cannot afford to have submerged. So even if everything goes wrong, we need that stuff to stay working. And they showed us, you may have seen some of the sea rise graphics to show, hey, if the sea rises 4 feet, look at all the parts of the bay that will be underwater. Well, they showed the same kind of graphic for the sand plant. And, if we get 4 feet of, 4 feet of sea level rise and king tides and then big waves, about 2/3 of the plant would be underwater. And that would be bad. So now we know for sure. So now we have information to start thinking about spending some money, saving up our nickels and dimes to get some work done to protect that stuff. And also some motivation to think about, are there other ways to approach the problem, like maybe relocating some facilities or other things. This is going to cost real money, but this is the way you do it. This is first you get some good information. Bill?
So the hydrodynamic analysis makes total sense, and I love being a scientist and knowing that there are scientists working on actual physical solutions to physical problems. And then there's the Coastal Commission, which apparently can take forever to allow people to move sand from point A to point B on the beach, or to dredge a harbor or something like that. So how easy is it going to be to get approval to do this thing? I can't know actually, but in general.
Both this agency and SAM have a history of working very well with the Coastal Commission to achieve what we need to achieve by designing things that are going to have the smallest or no environmental impact. So, for example, when we did work to put tanks in the ground in El Granada to hold stormwater overflow, we were able to get what's called a negative declaration. It took engineering work from our engineering firm or from Sam's engineering firm to do that. It took oversight to make sure that things were done properly. But getting a negative declaration it's about the easiest way to do work. But you've got to do a lot of extra work up front to make sure that what you're doing is smart and really is going to have little to no impact. So something like raising the berm should be one of those things where if we do it smart, we shouldn't be stepping into areas where the Coastal Commission might need to raise their hand and speak up.
What I wanted to hear.
All right, more on the SAM report. Peter, do you have anything else?
Yeah, we had some small items, approval of the insurance, of the replacement of the insurance policy. It covers dental, vision, disability, etc. It turned out the replacement was actually cheaper and at the same time offered more options to the personnel to go, for instance, to visit dentists. Then we had the mid-year budget adjustment that we had postponed, that was postponed for another session. And then we finally had an authorization to the general manager to advertise and award a contract for progressive design for the Montara force main. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And let me also remind people that in the next meeting or two, we're going to be having the report on that Greg and others have been asking for, and that's the inflow into the plant and how much percentage is coming from each of the agencies and what the safety concerns are going to be. So keep an eye for that one.
What day is that meeting gonna be? Or that report gonna be put in?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you
I
said
said
it's
it's
next.
in the next meeting or two.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be nice if we had been able to hear the budget item, but Granada and Half Moon Bay both had some contingency things that we needed to give a little time to finish out. And so we'll be taking that up potentially at a special meeting or at the next regular meeting. But there is some time urgency on it, and I think everyone is engaged to try to get this done. We'll see how it goes. Catherine?
And we passed ours.
Yeah, we
Next
passed our.
meeting after the SAM.
That's right. No, that's right. Okay, Midcoast Community Council, Greg, did you have something for us?
I got four things. You already mentioned Coastal Commission approved the middle mile. What's surprising is that they also decided to lay the cable along Highway 92 over to Skyline. That's even more than we asked Governor Newsom to do when we got ourselves put back on the map. But as Leo has pointed out, without a last mile provider, it's no good to us to have the middle mile. And we still don't have any reply from the county on our request to fund a feasibility study to create our own community broadband. So it's obviously there's some financial risk in creating such an entity, but it also has been a moneymaker in communities all over the country. I want to point out Cypress Point is moving to the Planning Commission, a hearing on March 13th, because the county council has ruled that due to a new state law, AB 1449, it's exempt from CEQA and they don't need an EIR because it's 100% affordable. So there'll be no final responses to the EIR, although we're told there'll be a staff report perhaps on March 7th. But the community might be interested in the Planning Commission hearing on March 13th. I don't have a Zoom link or data. I've asked Mike Schaller for that, and we'll post it when we get it. El Granada may not be of key interest to you, but we had a special meeting in part because they responded to concerns the community had raised about lighting. Some of you are aware of the excessive lighting from the El Granada fire station. The Cabrillo Unified School District has been very responsive to community concerns, has changed their lighting plans, and in fact proposed partitioning the parking lot out of phase one so we could get moving with construction in May, because we cannot have all the contracts and bids expire and have a year delay and cost increases. We need to get that remodel going. And I also ought to mention, unfortunately, Sean McFedrich has resigned, and also Jesus Contreras, who's the chief business officer, is retiring, both in about a month and a half. People have a lot of good things to say about Sean and the work he's done. Getting solar panels on all the roofs is going to save the school district a lot of money in coming years. But it's a tough job, and having gone through COVID and all the other budget problems we have out here, I think it's understandable. Finally, the City and County Association of Governments is pursuing a regional stormwater grant with NOAA. This is not something I believe San Mateo County has done before, have a regional approach to stormwater. The focus, unfortunately, is San Bruno. We're not included. Nonetheless, I provided a letter of endorsement because we didn't have a meeting scheduled in the timeframe required. And I hope getting a grant like that from NOAA will be a first step on getting San Mateo County to begin to address stormwater management in the unincorporated area. That's it for me.
All right. Thank you so much, Greg.
Can I ask him
Say-
a quick question? When you were mentioning the EIR for Cypress Point, they already produced one, is that right? They're just not subject to any requirements of it? Or are they not even going to release the EIR that we all put our letters in for?
I shouldn't speculate, but I guess I have to say what I was told. They're not going to reply to all our comments on the EIR. They are going to issue some, normally they have to go comment by comment. They're going to issue some broader statement of what they're going to do about the concerns. So that's where we stand.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Greg. That's helpful information. Let's see. Okay. Yes, I'm getting there. LAFCO, CSDA report first. Catherine?
Nothing to report. We're waiting, and we're still having a meeting coming up.
And local agency formation commission report.
Nothing's been happening. The meeting's next week, I think.
Okay. Attorney's report. Christine, anything?
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Director's report, Sid.
Okay, I attended the most recent city council, board of supervisors meeting because I couldn't last week when the power was out. And Mike Callaghan, they had their mid-year budget meeting or overview, and they have a $69 million shortfall. They're predicting it in their mid-year budget. And they also mentioned that the cutbacks were due to VLF, that's the vehicle licensing fees, and that local governments combined will face a $114 million loss before the end of June of 2024. And then I went to the city council meeting just to warm up last week because it was freezing at my house. And just happened to be the PCE guy was there because they were voting on a project for solar. And even though they didn't pick him, I happened to be sitting near him, and he told me that they are later this year, they will be rolling out a residential solar program. So I hope they'll start over here on the coast side first. But my understanding, because my neighbor has solar, but her house was dark, the whole power turned off. And apparently if you have solar, but you don't have a battery backup, then you're selling it back when it's going, but you don't get any when the power's out. So what good was it? She had a dark house. Anyway, that's all I had to say.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, it costs more, but if you can manage to get battery storage when you're installing solar, it's really important to ask questions about what do I do when the power goes out and what's it going to cost me to get something to help with that. I'll just mention, because more and more people are getting electric vehicles some electric vehicles can provide power. I bought one. I didn't even realize it could provide power, but it ran my refrigerator, lights, toaster oven, and a kettle. It's not everything we wanted to run, but
It was
that could be a feature that you, if you're shopping, keep it in mind. The same when you're getting solar, keep in mind, ask about the power outage. And I'm going to spend all this money.
Yeah.
What's it going to do for me in a power outage is a great question to ask. Bill?
To that point, I have batteries, and the weird paradoxical thing, which I've been ranting about for the last week, is that during the power outage, I had no idea what my battery state was, because these batteries have no meter, no dial. They don't even have a light saying whether they're charged or not. The only way for me to know the charge state of my own batteries, and also to know whether they're charging or discharging and how fast, is to have internet. So I was literally flying blind for 3 days, basically turning off everything in the house and crossing my fingers that there would still be power in those batteries. But this has a lesson for our business, because the technology which these people install, I had asked them whether I could monitor it during the internet, and they said yes, during internet outages. And now it turns out that they're spending 2 weeks to try to figure out how it's possible, because in their land, if my Wi-Fi is up, my internet is up, and they don't understand that it's possible to have Wi-Fi and not internet. So institutional decisions regarding what kind of communications work and don't work in what circumstances is why we have the FRS channel 2 and 22. We, as the people who are keeping Montara and Moss Beach alive in case of problems, have to be the ones to insist on failover communications protocols. So if internet and mobile goes out, we still know what's going on. So it's not just my house and my batteries. This attitude that the internet will solve everything, we can't rely on it.
All right. Well, that's true. I'm just going to point out the county and many agencies are part of an Office of Emergency Services radio network that they can use. And we're still participating in that, right? We have some of their equipment on.
Yeah, and in fact, the generator that was out here is actually for that purpose.
Oh.
Yes.
So the emergency services folks know it can go out. MWSD, Granada, Sam, we all know it can go out, and we've spent the money and done the preparations. And there's always more we could do, but it takes work, it takes foresight, and it takes spending some money. So all good.
Real quick, so I did drive around to get my car back, my phone charged up, and when I left and went to Pacific, I could get next door, and that's when I found out that Supervisor Mueller had arranged to have a sheriff's mobile command unit come and sit in front of the old El Granada fire station, and I went down there one night and charged up my phone again and got warm.
Cool.
But it would be nice if we, obviously with the internet out, a lot of people probably didn't know about it, but it would be nice if we had one a little further north too, just for all the people up here that were without power even longer than El Granada.
Yeah, I'll just mention again, you mentioned Leo. I mean, it was really great to have Wi-Fi. It was really great to hear the jazz and to see some lights on. But when I saw the power strip, I thought, okay, now this is the extra thoughtful bit. And the chairs, it's like sit here, listen to some music, charge your device, use the internet. It was kind of a nice calm place in the middle of the storm. So I started thinking, look, I can run my refrigerator. I can certainly help somebody charge a phone. So I'm going to try to think about how next time I can make some power for that kind of thing available outside too. And I bet there's a bunch of people running generators and with solar batteries and such. Start talking about this. Maybe more people will have ideas about how to make the whole community a little more resilient so that we can get through it all the ways.
Also know we have a lithium ion battery that is good enough to run in the fridge and the internet for a modem for a while, not very long.
Yeah.
But I also found out that the one that we have now has doubled in capacity and is still $2,200 on. So that will give you power for 2 to 3 days, which is in emergency always very good to know.
Yeah. Keeping
And
that.
if you unplug the refrigerator, at least you can keep your internet running.
If Comcast survives.
So I don't know, a while back, I asked if we were ever gonna have either a retreat or maybe a community kind of a session. And maybe it's something that we as a special district could do, is to have a warming station or a a place to have people come if they needed to charge up. I don't know if that's something Clemens wants to do, but
So, I mean, this is a staffing issue,
right.
very clearly. What we have been doing in the past, and what we can do as water agency is provide actually water for the folks that, don't have water, because if the power goes out, many in our community depend on their private well pump to run.
Yeah.
And so some folks don't have the water. So we have traditionally here for these for these situations essentially a station where you can draw water from and just drive up, fill up, and it's potable water. And I can make sure that we set that up for a next power outage. And we're all, of course, knocking on wood and crossing fingers that it's not going to happen so soon again.
Well, I came here one time because Steel Cove Power was still off, and I absolutely had to send out an email. And I was able to use the internet here because Tracy called me and said they were back up over here. But you can't offer that to the whole community, I
No, I
suppose.
mean, there's actually a number of folks parked out here in front. Not necessarily using our internet, but it was kind of like the first
Cell
section where cell power came back. However, the problem is, we have an emergency generator that is running this whole building and area. But as Scott pointed out, the communication drops out, Comcast drops out.
Yeah.
So what we see really is that, all the communication bays that are here have backup generator and backup power, but that lasts only as long as the diesel tank lasts or the battery lasts, and after that, everything drops.
Yeah.
So.
AT&T and T-Mobile, they tend to last about 8 hours.
Yeah, and that's what, so if power drops out, we have for another 8 hours, internet here in the office, and then.
How far do you have to go to get the more diesel replenishment to keep your generator running?
Well, either half the Bay or Pacific.
I see. Nothing local.
Well, the Chevron seemed to be going for a while. I don't know, but I mean, basically,
Yeah, lights.
depends on the outage, and you got to go where you got to go. So, I mean, the same question comes up for, hey, I've got an electric vehicle. What are you gonna do when power goes out? It's like, well, I got to save enough miles on my car battery to get probably to Daly City, or but I got a 220-mile range, so I can run my refrigerator and stuff for 3 days and still have more than enough to get to Daly City.
That's good.
Now, I want to just also mention the Harbor District has free Wi-Fi, and that was my workplace. So I just parked over there. And
Oh, cool. Down at the parking lot of the Harbor District?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Or not, you mean over at their building?
No, in the park, at the harbor.
At the harbor.
In the harbor
Okay.
facility, not the building.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Right. Oh, that's good to know.
Well, we may want to. I'm hoping someone who is involved with CERT is taking some notes and maybe add some of this to the good things to know. Let's go on to general manager report.
Nothing in addition to what I said.
Okay, then on future agendas, we have MWSD hydrants is mentioned here. We're going to wrap up our open session. We thank the community for joining in and paying attention and participating. In closed session, we're going to have a conference with legal counsel about existing litigation. And this is the city of Half Moon Bay suing its partners in the sewer authority Midcoast side. And then also a conference with labor negotiators for unrepresented employees. If we take any action, we'll report that out after closed session, especially for, to be in the minutes. With that, thank you all for attending, and we're in recess.
Night night. Thanks.
Good night.